here at Jeri's Seafood in Smith Point, Texas, and we're going to learn about how oysters make it from the bay to your plate. And with me here, by the way, I'm Nikki Fitzgerald, and with me here is Tracy Woody, and he's going to teach us a little bit about this today. So.
All right. So in Texas, and I guess we're mainly focused on Texas here, right? Okay. So Texas, oysters are grown mostly inland, not in the Gulf, but in inland bays where there's brackish water. We have a commercial harvest, which starts November 1st and ends April 30th. And then after that, we have a private lease harvest time, which is during the summer. Actually, you can harvest oysters all year long off of your private lease. It's regulated by the Texas Parks and Wildlife, Texas Department of Health, Shellfish Sanitation Division, FDA.
So how long has Jeri Seafood been around, probably?
They started the business in 1970. Of course, my in-laws were in commercial fishing long before that. My dad was a commercial fisherman when we moved here. My uncle. So, you know, the whole family. And we really just got into, we specialize in oysters.
Right.
We plant crops, we plant shell to build reef, to attract the wild spat set, give it something to attach to. And
Spats, the baby,
spats,
the baby oysters.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll get more into that in a little bit, but just, we put a reef down just to collect that, have a good place for the oysters to attach and to survive, because they won't survive in mud or silt. They'll die. And then from there it takes about 1.5 to 2 years, if conditions are right, to grow to a good 3-inch oyster, legal 3-inch oyster. When the oyster dies, the shell's left behind, so now you have a lot more shell on the bottom that you don't have to go back and replace.
It's a foundation.
Yeah, and so, it's because when they die, they're still attached at the hinge. Other animals will come and eat the meat out of it, and the shell will stay attached for quite a while, up to about a year. And that's where those, the spat, the larvae before they attach, will crawl up inside and get inside that shell, and typically on the underneath side where it's dark, and I guess evolution's taught them, hey, we're protected here. You know?
Right. All right. So once you have the reefs ready, you take a boat out, correct? And how do you get the oysters onto the boat?
Okay. Boats have what's called a dredge. It's actually a rake. It's very short tines. They're about 4 inches, but most dredges have a jumper bar where the teeth only stick down about 3/4 inch below the jumper bar, and so that skid or jumper bar keeps it from digging in. It just lightly rakes. You don't want to plow the reef up, because you'll kill the oysters and disturb the reef. If you lightly rake it, it'll actually break up the shell a little bit, clean up some of it. It'll knock some of the fouling organisms off, like barnacles and mussels and things like that. And that way the spat can attach to a clean shell. They won't attach to a real fouled up one. And I believe that barnacles and things like that are also feeding in the water, they probably filter out some of that larva too and consume it. So it helps to get the silt off of the reef. And so the dredge is brought aboard by a winch, typically about every minute to 3 minutes, depending on what's there. Sometimes as quick as 30 seconds. It doesn't take long, and you're not dragging it very fast, it's real slow. And they usually only let out about 25 to 35 foot of chain or rope to let it drag. And the amount of chain or the distance you let it out depends on, of course, the depth of water. And the farther you let it out, the harder it's going to dig. So you're not really wanting to to bring up a bunch of extra shell, you're just trying to skim the top and get the oysters, because it's faster to cull through that way, and it's cleaner. You don't get a whole bunch of stuff to sift through.
So once you get all of the oysters on the boat, like you get how many sacks on the boat a day?
During the winter months, November through the public season, it's a 30 sack limit.
Okay.
And so you can start at sunrise, and you got to have your dredge out of the water at 3:30 in the afternoon. And then you have to have your oysters, depending on the month, you have to have your oysters in at the dock and unloaded and under refrigeration within a certain amount of time.
And then you take the sacks back to your processing center, is that
Yes.
what you call that? Or?
Yeah, a shucking house.
Shucking house,
processing.
yeah.
So then the boats come here to the dock, unload. We'll take those and put them on the shucking tables. The guys will shuck them and put them into stainless containers. From there, they'll go into the packing room. They're dumped out onto a skimmer, and they're rinsed off, and all the shell and anything else that might have gotten in there with it while they're shucking is taken out, and then they're put into buckets, and anywhere from gallon buckets to little 8-ounce containers, everything in between. Some of them are, in the wintertime, we freeze some in pillow pack bags, 5-pound pillow pack bags. When they're at their peak, they're the fattest and the best. And we'll freeze those up, and we have a lot of customers that use those all over the country, and it just also to help hold over during the summer, you know, whenever oysters get real poor this time of year.
Y'all sell to grocery stores and restaurants, and can people just come and buy from y'all straight from Smith Point, or?
Yes, if you drive all the way to Smith Point, we're not going to turn you around empty-handed, because that'd make for bad customer relations. So yes, we will sell to the public here. We mostly sell to distributors. We're not going to go to every restaurant and every grocery store and tote stuff in their coolers and stock their shelves. That's somebody else's job. We're a long way from any big cities.
I've heard that you should only eat oysters with the months with ours. People can eat oysters all year long, right?
Yes. I guess the old adage with the months with the R was because typically it was cooler then.
Yeah.
And, you know, with refrigeration now and the rules that are implemented, it's a lot easier to get a good quality product. And the reason is because in the hot summer months, I would say there's a couple of reasons. Hot summer months, the oysters get poor. Like I said, the yield drops, well, the oyster gets skinnier. There's not as much meat there.
All right, so Tracy, I've heard that it's really important to eat local. Is that true?
Oh yes, you know, for multiple reasons. I mean, you're supporting your local economy. But one of the main things is, you know, in the United States and in Texas, Texas has a great health department. They do a great job. We're highly regulated. They come unannounced and inspect our facility. They inspect our boats, check temperatures on our coolers. They monitor the water quality weekly. They pull water samples and meat samples of the oysters to check. Now, oysters that come from other countries, when they're imported in, they don't check. We don't know how they're
Regulated.
They're regulated. Right? The water that they're grown in.
So basically, you're saying when you go in a grocery store, check where your food comes from,
yes.
right?
Oh yes.
So make sure it says product of USA. Because
Yes.
one thing I've noticed is sometimes they'll like to trick you. They'll even put an American flag on the front, and you turn it on and be product of a different country on the
Right.
back. So you have to really pay attention with those labels at grocery stores.
Yes. All our product is right here from the United States.
Right. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for explaining all of this with us today. And yeah,
welcome.
this is
Welcome.
great.
Enjoyed having you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.